Hi, Mr. John Brewin. Come on in. You're very welcome.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
Great. And that was a very interesting Premier League weekend.
It
Saturday,
was.
toed and froed, and went against the supposed script from the point of Arsenal being 1-0 down to where we ended up at 5 o'clock that afternoon.
Yeah. When Martin Odegaard missed that chance, the title was over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was it.
And
Manchester City.
it did feel that way. I know we have to go
Yeah,
beyond our feelings, but just the weight of history with both City and with both Arsenal, and that moment, it overrode any analysis that City aren't City of old at the moment and Arsenal aren't Arsenal of old. It just felt like,
yeah. It felt well. Yeah, it felt like Arsenal were Arsenal, but in fact they're actually a different Arsenal, and that's what we found out in that game. I wouldn't have expected Jorginho to score quite the goal that he did. Okay, it was an own goal, but let's credit him with that. And yeah, and also, as you say, you wouldn't expect Manchester City to go to Nottingham Forest and draw, except maybe we should have expected that because Nottingham Forest are really rather good at home, have a good manager, and in Phil Foden and who's missing chances. You've got Erling Haaland, who's maybe not always on it, and yet that's what happened for Manchester City. So yeah, the script that was written during that supposed title showdown to be ripped up again. And actually, I was quite doomy about how the season had gone after that Wednesday night. I thought, okay, we've not really got a title race anymore. Now we're back to thinking that this is actually an incredibly exciting Premier League season.
we do, with Pat Nevin, talk in a bit more depth about City because he was at that game against Nottingham Forest and Arsenal as well. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Liverpool and Manchester United. In interesting places on a whole host of levels. Liverpool and FSG have come out this evening to say we're actually not for sale. I mean, I know it's looked like we have been for the last 100 days, but we're not for sale. We are willing to sell a minority stake. Meanwhile, Manchester United are very much for sale, and the Qataris, is based on what you're reading or what you're sussing out or hearing, the Qataris do seem to be in pole position, John. Would that be your understanding, or do we know?
I don't think we know, but just the fact that the Qataris have the most money, and essentially that's what we know. The Glazers want to take out of Manchester United, and should they want to sell, and that's not a given completely. There's still this back channel idea that might not happen, though. Ultimately, if the nephew of the Emir of Qatar offers you 7 billion, I should say, then you're probably going to take that deal. Or Sir Jim Ratcliffe produces a deal that is equal to what they want, perhaps allows them even still a stake in the club or something like that, then it is possible. But it's interesting you say about the Liverpool thing. That sort of sneaked out, hasn't it? Because that was just like in a little interview, John Henry talking about his other sporting interests, talking about his other sporting clubs, and it's the final bit on that interview. I think it's a Boston Globe or one of those. It's a Boston Sporting News, it might be. Anyway, at the bottom, and it just says, "Oh no, we're not selling Liverpool Football Club. You know that wasn't the plan." Well, yeah, are we sure about that? Not necessarily. It always felt, and this is the word that you got. As soon as Liverpool went on the market, as soon as United go on the market, then maybe Liverpool, is the bridesmaid in this, and is not going to be able to attract that type of investment. Although Manchester United and Liverpool are English football's two biggest clubs, there is still a huge gap in that worldwide ability to make money and almost the prestige involved. And also, the other thing is, I would have thought that prospective owners would look at Liverpool and look at Manchester United, look at the makeup of the supporters, and perhaps think that taking over Liverpool is a bit more difficult because their fans have been a bit more active. Now, I say that as Manchester United, less than 2 years ago, were stopping a game going ahead. But I do wonder if those same forces that stopped that game going ahead are going to be as active against a Qatari takeover as they are against the Glazers. Manchester United is a splintered support base, and I suppose at the moment it splinters between fans on the internet who really want Qatari because they think, okay, finally, Kylian Mbappe comes to Manchester United, the richest club in the world. And then you've got those who are not for any reason than any particular liking for him, that would prefer the Ratcliffe deal because it's British and that he is a boyhood United fan and might have a less morally questionable bid in mind. Though, of course, he owns a chemical company, and of course, you introduce environmental issues in there. So, all in all, bit of a dirty business, isn't it? Manchester United's takeover.
I mean, it's generally hard to find the perfect billionaire, I suppose, is the issue there. You make such a key point about the Manchester United fan base, and I suppose the Liverpool fan base as well. But with Manchester United fans, you're talking, I think they would put their number at 467 million fans worldwide.
Yes.
So the notion that anyone can tell us what Manchester United fans think is clearly wrong, and who knows to what extent there will be a divide between the match-going Manchester-based fan and then the global fan base, or even how that's expressed. I mean, via Twitter versus protest at a match, I don't really know. One thing I do know is that the Glazers don't give a damn either way what those 467 million fans do think.
Well, the only concern they've ever had is as long as you don't make sure that the 467 million fans don't pay through enough money to pay off their dividends or cover their loan agreements, then those people can do what they like. Yeah. And you do wonder, whoever the next owner is, are they going to be as silent, as invisible as the Glazers essentially have been? Now, in their first years owning the club, they were never seen in Manchester. That's changed a bit over the last 10 years or so. But the Glazers have had this free bet, this ability to just take money out of something which is, if not the other side of the world, the other side of the Atlantic. The Qataris, you would expect, and let's take the example of PSG, which someone from Qatar also owns. That in itself presents another variable. They've been very much front and centre about it, promoting Qatar, about promoting their country, about now sports washing is the phrase that's used all the time. I think we could dismiss sports washing because I don't think, if you look at the World Cup, I don't think that Qatar had any intentions of changing their values or what they thought about the world. It's actually about power. Owning an institution like Manchester United in England, in Britain, in Europe is about power. It's about expressing Qatar's power on the world.
On the pitch, with all of this going on, I think things are certainly positive at Manchester United, and then there are signs of life once again with Liverpool on the eve of this game against Real Madrid. For Manchester United, post-Ferguson, only in 2018 have they had more points at this stage of a season. That was under Mourinho in 2018. The performance against Leicester wasn't perfect. Harvey Barnes cuts through the defence in the first 20 minutes. Iheanacho has that header. Erik ten Hag afterwards is furious with the performance, in fact, and rips through it, the first half performance as well, in particular. But all that said, they get the job done. Rashford does his thing. They're within 5 points of top all of a sudden. There is something ironic that the Glazers may have actually just sorted out the big issue at the club on the eve of selling it.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's not forget that there was a hell of a lot of investment in that team last summer. I mean, a lot of it went on Anthony, of course, who you wouldn't say has been a success so far, but a lot of investment went in. And there has this idea that just because they sound Weghorst, they're trying to do it on the cheap. Well, they aren't doing it on the cheap. They just spent the budget the previous summer. But in Ten Hag, yes, what they've done is they've gone back to the template of Manchester United's most successful managers. Young, progressive, already achieved something in the game, but want to go further. Yes. And that includes, obviously, Alex Ferguson, obviously includes Matt Busby. It also includes Tommy Docherty and Ron Atkinson as well. Managers that had achieved success had a lot more to go. The problem with, if you point managers like Jose Mourinho or Louis van Gaal, They've been there, done it, seen it. Maybe they don't have the same passion, the same vigour. And of course, David Moyes, let's set that aside. And Ollie, well, that wasn't going to work either. But Ten Hag fits the template of the most successful Manchester United managers. And what he is also doing is, as well as that big spend, he's improving the players that he inherited, which is something that a Manchester United manager's not done since Alex Ferguson in 1986. So you mentioned David De Gea. Well, David De Gea, he's someone that at the start of the season you would have this reputation, that chant, dodgy keeper. Well, he doesn't look so dodgy anymore. He's made mistakes, but him and Ten Hag have worked together. They've worked with the coaches. You've also got Marcus Rashford, of course, the most improved player, the best player in England at the moment. He's working with Benny McCarthy, a coach that Ten Hag's brought into the club. This is what Manchester United should have been doing all this time. And as you say, just as we're about to possibly change, it all seems to be coming right. And we don't know how a new regime might affect it, because if we take the example of, say, PSG, well, it's not really been that successful, has it? The team has won Liga.
It's a circus.
But it's not achieved. It's not achieved its aim. It's not a football team.
On Liverpool, then, the game. I mean, just these very moments last week, as they were about to kick off against Everton, there was a sense of where are they, and they've had a very, very good week. Now, after an appalling few months, it's hard to know how much stock to put in a very good week, but it's again, it's quite tantalising that it comes on the eve of this game against Madrid tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was at Liverpool's game at Brighton, 4 weeks ago, and I think Jurgen Klopp said afterwards, didn't he? It was the lowest point of his Liverpool regime. Well, I think actually it went lower after that. And for them to come back, win the Merseyside derby against a very motivated Everton team, and then that Newcastle game. Newcastle are a decent team. Okay, they were assisted by Nick Pope's rush of blood, but it was still 3-0 at that point, or 2-0, 3-0. And they've just, Stefan Bajcetic, is that how we're pronouncing it? They've found a player who has knitted the midfield together. He's 18. It's asking an awful lot of someone, but they found a player who defensively solid, progresses the ball.
Well, even for the goal, I'd say we both have that image in our heads of Van Dijk giving him the ball under a bit of pressure and lovely adept turn and sets Liverpool away. I mean, that's exactly what they need. Yeah,
and he's got that. I was saying this today. He socks rolled down, calm. He looks classy, doesn't he? He really does. Whether Liverpool can base their revival around an 18-year-old, we don't know. Whether that can be the same against Real Madrid, the old foe, we don't know. But it feels like this Real Madrid game, okay, Real Madrid maybe not the force they were last season, feels like a shot to nothing for Liverpool. If they don't win this tie, okay, fine. But it does feel like there are shoots of recovery for Liverpool. They shouldn't let themselves be too downcast if it doesn't go their way. And there's no reason why it can't go their way.
Could be an interesting couple of weeks, I suspect. John, thank you so much. Appreciate it.